Okay. Good afternoon. This Township of Selwyn regular council meeting of Tuesday, February the 13th, 2024 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to our community that we are trying to serve. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that in the minutes. And we have our minutes of January the 16th and February the 1st before us. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I have someone please move them? Moved by Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Boyko. All in favor? It's carried. Is there any discussion out of the minutes? Seeing none, we are going to go to our first deputation. Tanya Cran, welcome.
Hello,
And
thank you for having me.
yes, so we're going to hear from you about the vendor pop-up presentation update.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah. Everything's warming up. Yeah. There we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's going too fast. There we go. All right. So last year, SHCG was commissioned to work on a fundraising and revenue generation strategy for Selwyn Township. We did a number of initiatives to help the township and also nonprofits on efficiencies and other ways to generate some revenue, non-tax revenue, of course. One of the items that came up in there was the potential for something called a pop-up vendor market. So once that project was completed, we were asked to do some stakeholder input and some consultations to identify if there was a need or a desire for a concept like a pop-up vendor market. So in the fall last year, the first phase that we did was a survey to businesses and community stakeholders. And this community stakeholders were organizations such as like the Curling Club, Lions, those types. It wasn't a public survey. So that was in November. And it was emailed to 248 businesses and retailers that included restaurants, food trucks, vendors for the various markets that already exist. A follow-up survey was sent on November 16th. And by November 17th, there were 52 responses from the business community specifically. Then in December, it was opened to the general public. It was included in the December business e-newsletter and added to Speak Up Selwyn. And by the end of December, there were 248 responses received in total, and in total 62 business owners. So in November, there were 52 business owners, and by December, it was 62, so an additional 10. And 57% or 57 respondents said that they would actually be interested in becoming a vendor. So your marketing work is already cut out for you if you do decide to proceed with this strategy. So the next slide, we just wanted to give an example. In the survey, we gave participants examples of vendor markets because I think the concept is not well known. Some people think of it's a line of chip trucks, food trucks. It's not that at all. These are individual kiosks, similar to a farmer's market, but they're more permanent in that you don't have to every Thursday install a tent. Your booth is already there for you. And in these two communities, Belleville and Quinte West, they have these semi-permanent structures. They can be relocated if necessary, but they are intended to be permanent for the season. Each community has vendor applications, and we put two examples in this presentation for you. So Belleville and Quinte West, they are applications. They have a mix of seasonal from May to September or rotating by the week. So an example could be something like a maple syrup provider. They are not going to commit to going to a farmer's market for the entire summer when their season is only in March or April. I don't know why that's advancing on its own. So they may say, you know, in March and April, we may want to have a booth at the vendor market. So then that way they're not committing to a full year. And it can be fixed or temporary. It can be a mix of retailers, food trucks. The municipality decides who can apply for a location. So when asked if they were a resident or business owner in Selwyn, there were 80 business owners in total. 14 identified as business owner, 48 identified as resident and business owner. And then the third category, I do not live in Selwyn, but I work or own a business in Selwyn. They actually all did own a business. A lot of them made comments such as, I'm a real estate agent, for example. So a lot of people didn't associate themselves as a business owner. And then the other responses were Peterborough and Kawarth's economic development, service clubs, the curling clubs responded, various market vendors. All right. So we asked people if they'd ever experienced a vendor market or a holiday market and what their main purpose was. The majority said it was retail shopping. These were multiple choice, so they could make multiple selections. Food experiences. A lot of them identified trying something unique, especially in rural communities, being able to try a type of food that they've never experienced before. That business owner doesn't have enough business to have a brick and mortar location, so they're trying it out as a temporary pop-up to see if there is interest in their cuisine. And 16% responded that they were actually a vendor at one of those. For the location ranking, we asked individuals what their preference would be. These locations were put forth by the municipality. There was also a question on other. There were some suggestions for the causeway, for the curling club, but for the majority, they picked one of the locations that was presented by the township. When we asked them how often they would like to see a market held for, the majority said that they wanted to see it seasonally, May to October, and also on the holidays. Of the 9% or 6 to 10% that said not at all, only 6 business owners stated that they did not want to see a market at all. So there was just 6 business owners. Yeah. When asked what would benefit the community the most, majority said food trucks and food products, arts and crafts vendors, retail was third. When asked what amenities and services they'd like to see, seating area, entertainment area, washrooms, lots of parking, and unique food trucks. And people were very specific. They don't want to see chip trucks. There's lots of chip trucks all over the township. These are unique experiences that people would not be able to get elsewhere. Ideally, things that you can't get in Peterborough or in Kawartha Lakes or in neighboring communities, something that would be unique and would draw people to Selwyn specifically. So overall feedback of the respondents, it was overwhelmingly in favor of the concept. And again, this is still just a concept. We have not spent time on doing costing or other details for council. It was just to gauge whether or not there was an appetite for it. 255 respondents were in favor and provided their suggestions and input. 23 respondents did not think Selwyn should pursue this protocol. So some of the comments were specifically around food trucks, reducing sales at local businesses, unfair advantage to brick and mortar businesses, and specifically the business owners. So the 6 business owners that stated they did not want to see the concept It was very specific to Lakefield. It was none of the above. Lakefield already has a vibrant market and 19 restaurants, so that was a specific comment made. No locations whatsoever, no additional feedback. We already have pop-ups all over the township, including some of the locations above. So again, maybe not understanding the concept there. And I believe there was one other. Oh, this one, I don't want to read it word for word, but essentially the township doesn't know how to run events. So it was event specific. They
Yep.
So I'm not going to read the whole comment. Yeah. So again, overwhelmingly, they were all very positive, and that's why we highlighted the positive concepts. People were so happy that you're exploring this, but we just wanted to make sure that you did know there were a few negative comments, and those have been shared and will be considered for if the council decides to move forward with the concept. But 100% of the business owner concepts were specific to Lakefield, and they almost all surrounded restaurants. Oh, there was one other comment about it needs to be 2 kilometers away from a restaurant. That was another specific comment. Okay, I think. Oh, and the next slide is just next steps. So there's a lot of next steps there. And I know you are getting a presentation from the Economic Development Officer, but essentially council to consider the input that we've provided and shared with you today. Consider endorsing the vendor market pop-up protocol. That's a staff report. Development of the protocol by staff, and we will support staff on that. Development of the conceptualization plan by us, and public feedback on the draft protocol. So nothing would go forward until we get additional feedback. And we would expect it wouldn't be a survey this time. It would be public meetings with business owners. We would involve the Chamber of Commerce, Kawartha Economic Development, other stakeholders to ensure that we get all the feedback from each of the communities that the locations may be supported. Okay. And that is all I have for you today.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Tanya. Are there any questions for Tanya? With regards to her presentation, we are going to be hearing from Brianna. Councillor Koulis.
Sorry, for clarification, can we ask questions to both of them after our coordinator asks? Because I feel like there's going to be overlap.
Certainly. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. And now we'll bring Brianna Giotto up to the microphone to talk about the direction we go with the protocol for the vendor pop-up. Oh, you're not going to take the microphone, you're going to stay there.
I can stay here.
Okay.
I can, it's really your preference. I can go up if you'd like. Thank you. So the vendor market protocol was a seed that was actually planted during the marina utilization study, where there was an appetite for more vendors at the marina. The revenue generation strategy was being developed around the same time as the refreshment vehicle policy or bylaw to generate potential opportunities. And at that time, we reached out to Strexer to commission the survey and potential appetite from stakeholders on the vendor pop-up protocol and implemented the phase 1, phase 2 public feedback opportunities. Based on the survey results, Selwyn has interest in a vendor market protocol. And based on the interest, staff would recommend that council provides that the presentation from Strexer regarding the vendor pop-up market survey be received for information, and that the endorsement to move forward with the vendor pop-up protocol on municipal property be approved for, and that council provides direction for the protocol to be pursued at the following locations of Paul J. English Park, Isabel Morris Park, Lakefield Marina, Lakefield Beach, Ennismore Community Center, and Ennismore Waterfront Park. And that upon completion of the draft protocol, the concepts, the stakeholder feedback would be put out for public review and to be brought back for council's approval. Thank you.
Okay, so we now, if you want to go back to the mic there, Tanya. Oops. And are there any questions for Brianna and Tanya with regards to this presentation? Doesn't look like Counselor Coles.
Thank you. Through you. I have a number of questions. I'm just not sure how to address them in this forum because I think that further work has to be done and they'll be answered in that work. And so I'm just not 100% sure how to go about this. Some of my questions like broadly are about, like I myself don't think the Ennismore waterfront would be a good place because we should consult with those residents. I don't know how they're gonna feel. I just don't know where those pieces fall in the puzzle of developing this project too. So some of those are just, I'm blind to those. So
Okay.
I'm not sure, maybe staff, what does this process look like once we endorse it? Like, what is the next steps in developing this report? Like, what's gonna be done?
Of course. I can take that one. So the next steps are really development of a protocol to inform what that could look like. And that would, of course, include any consultation with residents nearby, businesses nearby. It's really, this would be the approval for the next step at potential locations, whichever council decides to move forward with. And then the protocol would be developed based on each location. So we would say X amount of vendors can fit at each location from a conceptualized plan. And then, of course, consultation. And then when we bring it back to council after the full protocol and conceptualization plans have been developed, then it would give council an opportunity to say, okay, actually, these residents and these businesses were really opposed to the idea at Ennismore Waterfront Park. Maybe let's not put that on the table anymore, and we can remove it from the table at that point. But this gives us an opportunity to really develop the protocol for each of these locations to determine whether or not it actually makes sense in the long run.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, for example, yeah, when you look at the location ranking, the waterfront beach was the least desirable. However, those residents or people that use the park in the summer or in the fall, winter for hiking and walking on the trails, you might opt to have a kiosk that has no electricity. It's not a food truck, but they may provide refreshments or something for people to grab when they're at the beach. If they want to purchase something, it could be whatever it is. So each location could have a different protocol. You could say these 3 locations, absolutely no vendors that require electricity or running water. These 3 locations, you know, they can have a mix of everything. So essentially it's tailoring it and customizing it to the needs of the community and keeping in mind the local residents and businesses in that surrounding, but each one would be treated individually. Does that answer your question?
Well, I think there are a couple of other people that have questions too, if you want to wait until, okay, Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sennis. Thanks for the presentation. Been a lot of work done in this area with examples and so on, but you know, one of the things I worry about the whole shed thing is, you know, what they're going to look like, and we're, you know, putting something permanent in the park, and I'm still not 100% behind that or really understanding what that's going to look like, but that's what protocol will tell us. One of the things that I noticed in the report was there was a very, I think the highest number was people wanting refreshments and food experiences. My preference, and I've said this before at council, is to have something in the marina or other places that's more of a permanent summer seasonal restaurant that could be leased out to a local restaurant to work with a patio. Because you know, when we want to go out for dinner, we don't come to Lakefield in the summertime because there's no place to sit by the water. We go to Young's Point, we go to Fenland Falls, we go to Bob Cajun, and our community really lacks that waterfront refreshment food experience. And similar to what City of Peterborough has with the lighthouse at the marina, they lease that out to vendors, local or not local. I don't see that as part of one of the options here from a food perspective. The idea of having a whole bunch of food trucks in the park doesn't appeal to me. But having, you know, a building that might have 10 tables in it, but more of a patio experience, I think achieves the same experience with less impact, I think, on the park. So just your thoughts on that as an option in the protocol moving forward.
Yeah,
And
so
not just for the marina, for the other sites as well, where there's water.
Yeah, of course.
do you want me to answer? Okay, so when we did the business plan for Belleville's pop-ups on the bay, they did not have a patio area. They had their pop-ups for 3 years and they wanted to grow and expand it. And when we did the public surveys, overwhelmingly, everyone said, we want a patio. We want to be able to sit out and enjoy and, you know, have a few drinks in a secure location. And what we ended up doing was recommending in their instance how to build a patio, an enclosed patio to meet all the requirements. And the benefit with them, instead of having a sit-down restaurant, is that a family could come and one family could get Indian food, one could get tacos, one could get ice cream or whatever it was. And they were able to do that. So again, those are all things that would be reviewed and considered. If overwhelmingly the desire is to have it near the marina and Lakefield, but nobody wants to see food trucks, then we could come up with a concept specifically for that. Again, it's meeting everyone's needs and feedback from the residents and businesses in the community of what works best in that location, rather than having a one-size-fits-all approach for all of these locations. We don't envision there will be a one-size-fits-all. It's just the ability to be able to do it should there be interest.
Well, thank you through you. Yeah, I like that as one of the options, you know, for the folks that don't want to see the food truck
Yeah.
lineup in the park.
Okay.
Something design that looks like it should be in the park, a building. And not a huge building, but
Mhm.
again, for rainy days to have some indoor tables so that vendor can still make a living.
Yeah.
But mostly the patio experience by the water, I think is what people that talk to me, that's what they're interested in.
Yeah.
In doing, yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and one additional thing you mentioned about how they would look aesthetically in Belleville, they had local artists design every single booth. So there was 12 booths in total, and the artists were paid. It wasn't a free, the artists were paid to design each booth custom. In Quinte West, actually, I don't know if it's Quinte West, but the wooden kiosk in one of the communities, I don't think it's they had the high school build them. So they involved, you know, so you could involve Fleming College or the high schools, those types of things. Halliburton, they've done a similar project where they use some community volunteers to build their sheds. Think of it like a shed. It's basically a shed.
I think it's important that Tanya hear, you know, what your idea of this would be like going forward while we
Mhm.
have her here. I'm very proud of the fact that Selwyn has been a leader in so many ways for so many things over the years. And this is another example of where we could be leaders in adopting something like this for our area. I think a lot of people don't understand economic development and the fact that if you bring something new to an area, it can enhance the businesses that already exist, bring in more people to our area. I know there are some who say we have enough people now already in the summer, but the businesses don't like to hear that.
Right.
And, you know, we are trying to make things experiential, if you will, when they come to our township. I like the idea that you're talking about tailoring something to each specific area.
Yeah.
I agree with our deputy mayor. I don't want to see some junky little shed put up
Yeah.
that is going to deteriorate over time. And personally, what I would like to see is, I'm happy the council has the opportunity to vet the policy in the process. We're not done with this yet. You're going to come back and bring something to us. And if we want to change it to meet our needs or what we think should be the best way, we have that opportunity. But I think the way we should go with this in the beginning would be to set up a pilot. And the number one was Paul J. English Park. So to try out the concept and see just what kind of reaction we get from the public for that. It is a little removed from most of the businesses with the exception of Timmy's. And I think that there's benefits of doing this because it gives a business that's working from home right now the opportunity to put their toe in the water and try this and see if their concept is going to be accepted by the public, and then they can open a storefront themselves. So we're encouraging them to build and grow. And the only thing I have to say about Paul G. English Park is every Monday there's a cruise night with the Shamong Lions. And we can't have permanent structures there that are going to take up space because that whole park gets used every Monday.
Correct.
So again, tailoring to meet the needs of what is already being used for. And I can use as an example, Enticing Cakes, which is in Lakefield, has a cute little trailer, and they do a pop-up. Yeah, they take them to weddings. They could be at the jazz festival. They could be in one of these parks. So it gives them two locations and gives the opportunity for the public to see just exactly what they're all about if they're not inclined to walk through the front door of the store. So there's a lot of positives for this kind of thing. And another is that it cuts down on emissions because you haven't got people driving all over the place. They can walk from place to place, and you know, I could go on. Anyway, I've spoken enough. I got Councillor Henry who would like to speak.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. Thank you for the presentation. Much to consider here, obviously, and this is going to be a little bit of a process for all of us to work through. With there seems to be another number of concerns about these permanent structures. Can we put wheels underneath them and then they're movable throughout the township?
Yeah, so when we say permanent, it's just not, the word pop-up is what people are confused about. So with the farmer's market, every Thursday morning, you see all the vendors come up and pull their pop-ups up and they hope and pray there's no rain, and then they got to take it all down at 2 p.m. That is not, so these would be permanent as in they don't have to set it up every week. And if they want to rent by the week, it's there. It's an enclosed structure, so it's protected from the elements. And depending on the location, if there's electricity, you can even have heat or air conditioning. But it can absolutely be designed that they could have wheels underneath, and you can make it so that it could fit on a trailer, and you can move it to a new location. So if the location ends up being in Lakefield, and there's a specific event, so maybe even for the cruise nights on Mondays, you could put these in amongst the trees where you can't put a car now, and you could maybe sell a few things there. You could have a realtor with a little pop-up, right? For people that are coming from outside the community, they can have a little pop-up. There's a number of things you could do. So if the desire is that you don't want these to be permanent, they could be designed so that they are lightweight enough that they could be lifted and moved elsewhere. But then there's considerations of then they would not need, or they could not have electricity or those types of things.
Then why don't we put solar panels or something on top?
But there's a number of things could be done.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of the pop-ups in most communities, they don't have electricity. That's one of the things. They do not have electricity. They are a temporary pop-up. And to one point that Mayor Senes had stated about getting their foot established, I will tell you, when we went and visited the pop-ups for the first time, my company, there was a vendor there who, it was a Mexican restaurant, and they only had a few things. They had some nachos and other things, and then they had a coupon for you to go to their restaurant later. And we did. We went that evening and had a full meal at their restaurant with all of their food and drinks, of course. But so just, of course, that's the best part about going to a Mexican restaurant, right? So yeah, so absolutely the current businesses get the opportunity if they want to have that, you know, this is just a sample of what we have available. Come see our full bakery for our full selection, those types of things. Community futures are involved in most communities that are doing it, where it is somebody who's thinking about the concept of starting a business, but they don't want to fork out all that money, especially a restaurant, right? We all know restaurants are very expensive. So you can try it out. So, and that can all be taken into consideration when you're doing your application. Does that answer your question?
Councillor Coulis.
Through you. Okay, so I'll touch on a few of the questions and points that I had, and I feel like other questions might come out of them. So I kind of, when I was going back, looking at all the information before council meeting, I was wondering, like, this came from the idea of revenue generating, like the
Correct.
fundraising strategy. So now we have all these ideas to put money out there. So I'm just not sure how we're going to balance the books when this was about making money in the first place.
Correct. So so I can speak to how Belleville did it. They invested prior to COVID. There was this trend of having them, and they decided that they wanted to try it out. They did a pilot. They started with, I think, 4 or 5 kiosks or pop-ups, and it quickly got popular, and they just kept investing more and more. So they did apply for funding to get the initial expenses for the initial purchase of they were tin cans, they were metal. Other communities have done the woodshed option where they work with community groups to build it. There's a number of ways, and it does become self-funding. You do rental agreements or lease agreements. So in most communities, there's a seasonal and a rotating mix. So again, using the example of a maple syrup producer, they might only want to purchase for April and May, for example, but then that space becomes available for somebody else if they want to sell flowers in June and July, that sort of thing.
For you. So I'm worried though, because I mean, it's expensive to make little huts, let alone buy them. And then depending on where we decide to put them, the maintenance and like that falls to our staff long-term. So as a pilot, like permanent structures are not on my radar. I would do the pop-up in regards to moving it around in different places and trying it throughout our community. And if that goes well, like during that period, we're applying for funding and it's going well, then maybe in the long term. But I think, and as I've alluded to, the next steps are engaging with stakeholders further, whether those are key stakeholders or a broader range of them. We might have a different perception on that, and the locations might change. So I do think that this is a very iterative process, and I don't think permanent structure should be on the radar right now. Like, I think this is going to be a multi-step process if we do support it. I'm also sitting here wondering if we're actually reinventing the wheel, because I know we're distinguishing this from like the farmers market, and yes, they're Thursdays, but why not partner with those groups? Like Lions Club, they do their own barbecue. They're not looking for people to come in there and take the money away, because they're trying to make money to put back into the community. So if you have a local business coming in there, I think we're going to ruffle feathers. So and the next step with communicating with those stakeholders, I think you have to be very clear on what the goal is, who the goal is for, and how it can help them, because there's probably going to be feedback there. And in my perception, that Bridge North location would be great as a pop-up, but it has to be in partnership with some of these stakeholders, because I think we're driven by community volunteerism right now, and that's really lacking. And I think this might put a damper on that if we are too rigid on what it could look like. And then my last point here is any of these kiosks, farmers markets kind of get around health and safety because they can bring coolers and they're shorter periods of time. So I'm worried, depending on the infrastructure that goes into them, that we might limit who can use them when and where. So just larger questions of if you're going to be placing businesses or these pop-ups, who can use them where? Because if you have somebody with a restaurant who is going out and they're only going to use it for a few hours a day versus 12 hours or what, like, there's a lot of questions around health and safety that
Correct.
I think we need to consider in regards to what infrastructure will be to that.
Yeah, and so in Belleville and Quinte West and all the other pop-up locations, any food sales would be subject to the same health unit regulations as a brick and mortars location. So these locations, again, they don't have electricity typically, they don't have running water, so you can't really serve food. And in an instance where if there's already somebody providing a barbecue, we would probably recommend that there's no food sales there. It would be retail, or again, community information, or a realtor or a retailer of something that doesn't involve competition. The idea is that this is not to compete. This is to draw people who otherwise would be going to another community, who would be leaving the community. We're trying to draw people to stay or bring from outside to enjoy the space. Yeah.
This is to staff. Would we need any like traffic, surveys or anything to know like how it would impact local communities that way, aside from just the residents?
Of course, and those are all things. So all of the questions that you have, those are sort of to be developed in tandem with the protocol. So really, we would explore, okay, if we're doing it at Paul J. English, for example, we would work with the Lions Club to figure out what vendors work best there. And of course, when we're looking at a potential to integrate phases and pilot projects, of course, we're not going to want to invest in these permanent or semi-permanent structures. So perhaps that looks like a tent at the beginning. But we can test out the different types of vendors that people are interested in. We can implement surveys to figure out what is working, what isn't. We can work on our opportunities and challenges to work on next steps and what might work best per location. So the recommendation would be to really pilot a few of these different locations to figure out what's working and what's not, and how we could perhaps move forward from there.
Okay, one more.
The one
and
that
then
is,
I've got other
I know,
meetings.
it's just,
Yeah.
so as a pilot though, like, do we have to do a traffic survey before or after? Because I'm worried about how much money we're putting into this and not getting out in the short term, because the turnaround, because this is a fundraising thing, this is where the existential like crisis here is, like, where did we start and where are we going? Is if this is to make money for ourselves and like bringing in tourism to the community, I'm just wondering how much we're going to fork out in the beginning to set this up, even if it's just a pilot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we can look into and report back when we're working on the protocol to figure out exactly how much it would cost to do things like the traffic study or other requirements.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank
thank you, Deputy Mayor Blunt.
Through you, Mayor Sennis, just a couple of quick comments and questions. So the question of zoning, I think, is what you were more concerned about. Are these parks? Are we allowed to permanently put structures in there? Even I know they're not permanent because we're not digging holes or anything like that. But
Yeah.
so question around zoning, and of course, in any planning thing, you're going to have a traffic study, and then all those things are expensive, of course. So
Yeah.
that's a question I think that has to be dealt with in protocol and policy. You know, Councillor Coolidge brings up a good issue around the food thing again, and unless it's a food truck that has their own generator and water system and has got a license from the health unit and so on, that's the only way food vendors typically are going to be there. So
Yeah.
it goes back to my preference for more of a permanent small restaurant that we could lease out to somebody that can operate it, and that could be somebody who's only in the catering business today and who wants to have, 6 months or 5 months of use of maybe think about, maybe I'll build my own restaurant then, or I'll find a permanent place if it works for me. So again, the food thing worries me a little bit because of the health issues as well. So I really think that's an option that has to be looked at as well. And I do support, as you're saying, Community Futures. I chair the loans committee there, and this morning we funded a number of startups with microloans to get their businesses moving forward. And you're right; those are opportunities for those businesses to show their wares or services to the public. If that's the intent of those pop-ups, I think that's a good reason to do it. So I would support that aspect of a policy around who gets to use the structures or the.
All right, Councillor Boyka.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sennis. I've approached this with an open mind, and I've listened carefully to the presentation, read the reports. Thank you. And I sent, I think 25 or something questions. Thank you so much for answering all those questions. It really helped me to contextualize and to clarify my understanding. So thank you. All of the discussion is terrific, and I understand the desire to go to ask for protocols, but we're really getting into the weeds as we need to. But I keep coming back. I came with nothing written, but I've jotted something down as I've been listening to the discussion. We're really asking an existential question more than anything else, and that is this. And tell me if I'm right. that Selwyn has limited parkland. We have limited public spaces. We have limited public access to the waterfront, as every community does. But we've got a finite number of resources in those areas. So essentially, we're asking ourselves this, am I right? Should we strive to protect all of our parkland and public spaces and public access to waterfront as natural areas for all people to enjoy? Or should we remove portions of those public areas and parks and public access to waterfront areas and change their character? Should we change their use? Should we change their purpose by commercializing our public spaces? And I'm not convinced. I understand everything that we're talking about here, and I understand that there needs to be more work done. But I'm not certain that it is a good idea, and I'm not sure that we would get widespread public support if we asked the question, do you believe that we should commercialize our public spaces and public access to those spaces and to the limited access we have to waterfront in our community? And so I'll just leave it as that is the question that I'm asking myself, and will continue to as we work our way through this process.
And certainly, that's something that we can circle back and make a decision that maybe, you know, we don't want to go in that direction. At this point in time, we have this before us today. I don't know what the rest of council feels about this, but we've got recommendations here that we, first of all, we receive your report and Brianna's, I guess, and that I need a little bit of help here, Angie, because it's saying that we endorse moving forward with the vendor pop-up protocol on municipal property at approved locations. And I'm not sure that at this point in time, council is interested in doing that with all those locations. So can you help me with the wording to?
Sure. So maybe just to step back just a tinge in terms of the properties that are listed. Some of them would permit commercial use. So just to clarify that. So like currently the Lakeville Marina, of course, would approve that that type of use. The Lakefield Beach, I'm sorry, I'm just looking for it. It's recreation open space. There is an exception on it. Of course, the campground operates out of there. So we'd have to take a look at the area where the pop-up would be located to see if some rezoning would be required there. The Ennismore Community Center would be community facility, so that would also permit commercial uses. So I would say looking at the Ennismore Waterfront Park, Paul J. English and Isabel Moore's Park, those are probably just recreation open space where there would be some rezoning requirements. So I guess it might be helpful if you want to split it up to get council to give us direction. Do you even want to move forward with the protocol? Yes or no? So maybe even starting there would be helpful. And if there is majority agreement to move forward with it, then maybe we could have council decide, are you interested in all 6 locations? Or would you like to take some of the locations off the table right away? But I kind of think you need to start with, do you even want us to pursue the protocol? There's no sense doing a lot of work on something if council's really not wanting to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you.
If
Mr. Boyko.
I could add one more thing to that, and I'm happy that we're going to move in that direction. When we're talking about commercializing public spaces, I'm thinking back to something that the last council and staff experienced when there were public meetings and public consultation with respect to the commercialization of the greatest public space that Lakefield has, and that is what is now and has been for some time a trailer park. And when we talked about continuing the commercialization of that space, it tore the community apart. There were people who were threatened with violence. There were people who had their houses vandalized as part of the public discussion of the continuation of the There was someone who had their house vandalized just recently, and he is convinced it was because of the public stand that he took about the continuation of the commercialization of that trailer park. So with that, I will say upfront that I think it's a good idea to bring that question forward there. And I would like a recorded vote, and I'll tell you upfront that I will say no. I do not support the commercialization of these spaces through the pop-ups, and I'll be voting no to.
So what you're saying is that you don't want to move forward with the vendor pop-up
Nope.
market?
Well, yes, I am saying no.
Okay. All right, well, I have someone moving that. No, this is what Councilor Boyko is suggesting is that we don't go any further with this, we just kill it.
I'm responding to Angie saying, let's talk about whether we're going to go forward. And I'm simply announcing first, I'd like a recorded vote and putting it
Yeah.
out that I'm going to say no.
We heard you. Okay, so is there anyone seconding it? Actually, you should be coming through me to do that, but I don't see anyone seconding it, so, oh,
Friendly amendment to that, Councillor Boyko, would you support bringing the protocol forward for those spaces that have commercial zoning already? I understand the park issue for you, and it's an issue for me clearly as well. Would you consider the split out, saying we don't want them in parkland?
Sure.
But could look at the other commercial spaces in protocol.
That are currently zoned commercial. Sure.
and what would they be, just to
So-
confirm
so-
again?
Sorry, I think we're weaving two things
Yeah,
together.
I think we are too. And
So John put forward a motion basically that we're not going to move forward with developing the protocol. That would just stop this.
Yeah.
So do we have a seconder for that?
No, we
motion?
didn't.
Okay, so we would have a new motion then that we would approve moving forward with the vendor protocol. So if we could get a motion and agreement on that, then we can discuss maybe the locations in a second motion.
So,
So you're saying the motion overall first, and then
yes,
I think, I would prefer to do it the other way, to separate first and then have a motion on those three sites.
what is being suggested?
Well, the
Is that
first
we have
motion
a-
is saying everything.
No,
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 the first
the
motion was
motion
to
is
do
that we
nothing.
move
To do
forward.
nothing.
Sorry,
So
we-
that died. So now we're saying we will move forward with the vendor pop-up market protocol. And then we will, and what's suggested by the clerk is that we include the three that
In that second motion.
could, yeah,
Yes.
well, that's now the first motion. The other one's gone. So
We'll let the clerk sort this out.
That's okay. I think what Sherry is saying, she's going to put them all together. So it sounds like it's nobody supported John's motion. You want to move forward with the protocol.
Yeah.
So then we need, coupled with that, which locations do you want us to pursue? So tell us of the 6, which ones you would like us to
and I would
include.
like clarification as to which ones already have the zoning.
Yeah, so that would be the Lakeville Marina, the Lakeville Beach, and the Ennismore Community Center.
So it's in effect taking all the parks off the list, John. Yeah. All right, so is someone prepared to move? Are you prepared to? All right. Yeah. Let me get a seconder. No, but I need a seconder first, so if you're seconding with a question, okay. Do we have a seconder for this? Okay, well, that has died. Yeah, okay. So we have to, we've said, no, we're not gonna do it, and we said, no, we're gonna do it, so what do we do now? Counselor Henry,
I think in fairness to Selwyn Township, we should be including all of them with a location as to where it could be, meaning Lakefield, Ennismore, Smith, wherever it could be. Because if we're making these things mobile, there are events like we've seen with Polar Fest, like see with Jazz Festival, where these units could be utilized. And is there any money made off the Jazz Festival? Isn't that held in the park? We are monetizing our parks. Technically, everything that comes before us where we say, oh, there's no pecuniary interest here. Well, if someone makes more money, guess what? We can get a raise. So, well, let's cut through it a bit because Jazz Festival is in a park.
It's true.
It makes money. There's food vendors in the park. They're making money. So this is like,
So you're, so again, so
I
what
would
we're
like to see-
doing is you're making a motion to go forward with the protocol with the listed locations. that are
yes, but
recommended.
however, within the recommendation that I would like to see what the considerations are going to be by commercializing our parks. Obviously, we're getting into parking studies. The environment will probably come up in question next. God forbid sidewalks can pop into here too. Shots across the bow today, yes, but we've already monetized the parks. We've already monetized certain areas. We can do it in a way possibly that we can mitigate it, we can look at it, but I think we should take a look at all of them because otherwise Ridge North needs chances here to bring some things to its communities. And it's more as well, all of them need them. So I would like to put it back on the table that we are accepting all of them, but take a good look at it, let's scrutinize.
Okay, and would it be with, okay, let's, see. So there's a motion on the table that we look at the protocol with all of these locations to be scrutinized and recommendations made. Do you have a seconder? Sir,
I will second it
Deputy
to
Mayor.
get discussion forward as well. Yeah, I think the different, the way the parks are monetized now, they're temporary structures. They're not gonna sit there and be part of the park on a permanent basis. So I think I can support it as long as the proposal that comes back talks about, as Councillor Henry said, the environmental impact, the impact to the look of the park, the maintenance in the park, all those sorts of things. And if it comes back with a recommendation that says, no, they shouldn't be in the park side of it, that might be one of the outcomes as well. And we still have another opportunity to address that once the protocol comes back. I'm a little concerned about the word endorsement in the motion that we're endorsing. I think we're asking for a report, not endorsing at this point. I think that's a strong word in the.
well, we're endorsing going forward with the protocol. But at the end of the day, council will make the decision whether we approve it or not.
Yeah,
So we still, council still has control.
I don't want the headline that we're endorsing.
So we could
Well-
just say that staff be given approval to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
More than endorsing. Endorsing sounds more that we've made a decision, and clearly we haven't made a decision. Today, there's lots of things around the table here that we have to still figure out, so.
Before
I'll
I
second
call,
it based on the change.
okay, before I call the vote, I'd like you to please read for me
Sure.
with the motion.
Sure. So we're going to receive it for information and that staff begin given approval to move forward with a vendor market pop-up protocol on municipal property at approved locations, including the continued engagement of SHCG to develop concept plans at approved locations, and that the following locations be included for consideration in the protocol: Paul J. English, Isabel Morris Park, Lakeville Marina, Lakefield Beach, Ennismore Community Center, and Ennismore Waterfront Park. And that upon completion of the draft protocol, concepts and stakeholder feedback, that a further report be brought forward to council.
For consideration.
I can add that.
All right, so we have a mover and we have a seconder. You're okay with what's been read, Mr. Mover? Yeah, Mr. Seconder. All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Good discussion. We go to question period. Are there any questions that have been brought forward, Madam Clerk?
No questions.
Thank you. We'll move on to municipal officers and staff reports. Lane, you are bringing forward the final adoption of the budget and PSAP compliance report.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, this is a report that's provided at the end of the taxation budget process, and it's a requirement under public sector accounting bureau. So it just basically looks at any of those expenses that we wouldn't have considered in our deliberations over the last while, based on accounting standards. So what I would refer as a housekeeping report, but at the same time, it does finalize the budget process for this year.
All right, thank you. We have a recommendation before us. Are there any questions of Mr. Vance? Seeing none, I'm looking for a mover to recommend. Councillor Boyko, Councillor Henry, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We will now move on to the consent items. Is there anything that anyone wants pulled? Councillor Boyko?
Through, Madam Mayor, I won't ask for it to be pulled, but the committee report, Smith Ennismore Police Services Act, Board. I just want to, congratulate in public, Councillor, Henry for being appointed the, chair of the board of the Smith Ennismore Police Services Board. Congratulations.
All right, is there any, anything that people want pulled on this report? If not, I'm looking for someone to move and second the recommendations. Yes. You have to pull it. Okay, just a second. All right, go ahead.
Thank you through you, Mayor Sennis. Adam, we're making these purchases and obviously you've made a comment and they're gonna sell the other units. What's the process for that? Is it just go out to an auction company, or do we get offered a trade-in when we're buying from a Volvo dealer? And what can we expect to go back into the reserve on those trade-ins or those things?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Typically, we use Gov Deals, so a government website that will put a lot of vehicles and equipment on. A lot of municipalities use that, so that's what we've done in the past. We put that on there. We kind of have a starting point for bids on it. We also have like a reserve bid, so if it's below that, we have the option to kind of withdraw that. We do get trade-in values for them through Volvo, but what we're hearing in the industry right now is the trade-in values are pretty low. And even the representatives will tell you that there's more interest in the market for municipally maintained equipment to sell it privately, like through Gov Deals. So we did look at trade-ins on it through Volvo, but we decided that we'll sell it privately through Gov Deals or something. We should get better value.
Fair follow-up. Any idea on how much will go back into reserves? I know what it costs. I don't know, you don't wanna. What's the ballpark typically for these items, just so we have an idea of how much money's coming back on these purchases?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. It's really hard to say. Yeah, it depends on the market and depends on a lot of variables. I really wouldn't want to kind of pigeonhole myself with an actual price on that one.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
All right, so we will, I need a motion to receive 5E, first of all, because it was pulled, moved by Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Coulis. All in favor, that's carried. For the balance of the consent items, mover, Councillor Henry, Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor, that is carried. Thank you. Move on to other new and unfinished business. I just want to congratulate everyone that was involved with Polar Fest this year. It was a huge success. There were so many people that were in the whole township for the weekend, got positive feedback from everyone. So thank you to staff, to management, to the sponsors, the volunteers. It was a great event. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Henry, because I think you're on that committee, are you not?
Thank you, Mayor Senes. Yes, I am on the committee, but I cannot take any credit for any of it. I put it all on Mike and Amy, actually.
Yeah,
They did all the work.
it was fantastic. Thank you. And I just want to make a mention, the deputy mayor and I were at a Peterborough County Celebration of Agriculture Award Dinner on Saturday, along with our, the warden, our MPP and our MP, to honor Marg and Wayne Telford for longstanding commitment to Peterborough County cattlemen, and Larry Jinkerson for longstanding service in agriculture. And I'm sure council will join in congratulating them for these awards. And I would like a letter to be sent to the recipients, please, from the mayor and council. Oh, and the Farm Family of the Year was also recognized, and they're from Asheville, Norwood, Todd and Jen Payne. Are there any other announcements, other new? Yes.
It might be nice to have a motion so it
Oh,
hits the
okay.
minutes. Yeah.
That. Moved by Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Coolis, all in favor. That's carried, thank you. We have, before we go into closed session, some bylaws. Clerk.
Yep, we have 6, the authorizing bylaw for the court security and prisoner transportation program. 7, the heritage designation for the Cortha Park Chapel, and 8, authorizing bylaw for the tender for the CCTV inspection and stormwater flushing.
All right, so Councillor Henry's moving that. Councillor Coolis is seconding, all in favor. It's carried, thank you very much. And I need a motion to go into close, please. And the closed is for potential litigation matters affecting the municipality. 2 matters, notice of insurance claims, an update on the Ontario Land Tribunal matter, and the minutes of December the 12th. Someone to move to go into closed. Councillor Henry. Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you.